Welcome back, everybody. It's Bronson with the Epoxy Resin Store. Today, we're gonna go over a 4-part series on how to build countertops like a professional. I'm gonna walk you through the steps A to Z and everything in between in detail so that when you're done with this series, you too can build countertops like a pro. All right, in this video, you'll notice we've built a template here, this white material that you see here. We go out to the job site and we create templates that we use to bring back to the shop. So at the end of the day, we're really just professional tracers. And what I'm doing here is on this particular template, we're adding an inch to the back. So I'm going through and I'm adding little crow's feet marks. So I know exactly where to put my extension on my back line. And you'll see me mark these all out, and then I'll make a straight line so we can line up our template. All right, so there I've got my straight edge. I'm using my crow's feet to get right through the center, and I'm gonna draw a nice line there. It's added an extra inch of depth off the back of my countertop. So I have that little bit of extra that we're adding to the build of this one. But don't look too closely at my shop. This is our shop. We build in it. It's a real functioning shop. So it's messy like a real functioning shop. Our cleaning person hasn't come for the day. Well, actually our cleaning person's making a video right now, so they weren't able to clean the shop. All right, I've got all the lines drawn. Now what I'm doing is I'm lining up the back of my template because we added an inch. I'm gonna use these clamps. I'm gonna clamp this down so we have a nice and straight line to trace out. So you'll see me line up my corners right here. I'm gonna get this speed clamp. We're gonna clamp that baby down right there. And we're gonna clamp the rest of this down as well. Keeps us nice and square when we come in here. When we clamp down all our template, we don't want any wiggle room. We want to be super precise. We don't want it to move around. It really helps us. So when we go to put the countertops in, fits like a glove. It's perfect. Now I'm tracing out the shape of my template there. This particular one's an L shape, which is pretty common when you're building countertops out. This is a kitchen countertop that we're building for our customer. Now, if you look right there, how I have the template hanging up, I want you to pay attention to what we do next and how we add an extension to that. So first off, I'm putting an X on the side. That's my offcut side. I always do that. I like to keep really careful notes so that once I've got my template traced out, I know exactly what I need to do and I'm not cutting the wrong side of the line or cutting the wrong shape out. Now that I've got my template traced, I'm gonna remove my clamps right there. And then if you'll see next, I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna double check all of my measurements. All right, now that I've checked that, I'm gonna cut these out. I'm just using the handy jigsaw in this case. A lot of times we use a track saw as well. The track saw was broken at the moment, so we have a hand saw or a jigsaw that we're using right now. Okay, right here, I had to add an extra inch off the back, so I'm just lining up my measurement right there. I'm using the straight edge, putting it right on an inch, and then I'm using the back of the ruler. So I have it, you'll see me, I'll line this up right here, and that'll give me the extra distance that I needed off of the template right there. Because we're adding 3/4 inch, that's what I was trying to show you right there, just keeping notes for myself, plus 3/4 of an inch, and that's what we added. And I'm gonna scribble out the line I don't want to cut, and then I put an X where I do want to cut. So I'm gonna cut right along that straight line there so that I have a nice, clean, perfect cut. Now I've got that drawn, cut the rest of this front of this L out. And the finishing cut's always so satisfying. Trim off this end piece here so we're all squared up with the length that we need. We'll go address that extra piece we've got to add to this. All right, I'm gonna put my template back on and put it into place. I'm gonna line this up. We're getting ready to add our extra piece that overhangs there so that we have, when we build it, it'll be one seamless countertop. Now, it doesn't mean there's not seams in it. It just means you won't see seams as a customer. Underneath, we do have seams, so I'm gonna show you how we're gonna make those seams and how we'll address those seams in this video as well. And on that edge that's overhanging, I would like to note that what I did is I kept a factory edge. So that's when I bought the board, it was already cut perfectly straight. I knew I was gonna add to it. And I like to take factory edge to factory edge. So when I put the two together, it's a perfectly straight surface. It makes it a lot easier. I don't have to worry about a cut or a bad cut. Everything lines up just square and we knock it out. So I've taken a factory edge on this board and I've matched it up to the factory edge of the countertop that we're building. And I'm going to go ahead and clamp them stir level. So I use clamps to put the two boards together at the seam stir level. And I'm gonna take my template, I'm gonna draw out the remaining shape that we need to do on that as well. That'll be the little piece that we cut out to match up with our template. Extend our back line where we had, so we got a perfectly straight line. When you have a really long straight edge like that, a good tip is I can take it on both sides and it will line up nice and straight and end up with the same line. Just like that, you'll see that it runs right into our cut and that's just a nice little clean line. So when we get in there with our saw, it makes our work quick. I'd also like to note when I am cutting, I always take the line. What I mean by take the line is when I'm done cutting, I don't want to see the black line that I put down with the Sharpie marker anymore. I like to cut just a little bit, a kerf length short, so I have a little bit of wiggle room, place to put the caulk when we hang it in. So you'll see that our motto in our shop is take the line, take the line. We're always taking a line. So you'll see me doing that here as well. And here we go on the back side, taking this line too. No lines will be left. And just like that, that piece matches up beautifully. So look at that, that's the piece that we'll add on to our existing countertop. I'm gonna double check it against our template again. See that I've got a good fit there. And then I'm gonna go through and mark this. I am crazy about marking this stuff. So I'm gonna mark the tops, the fronts, the sides, any bit of information that might be handy for me to know without that template on, I'm gonna put on there. You'll see me draw arrows, like that arrow to the front. I wanna make sure that everything is lined up so that I don't have any questions. I do this because we're gonna flip this over and work on the bottom at one point. And if you don't make careful measurements, it's really easy to build this thing mirror image. So I'm crazy about that. This mark right here, this is the center line for our sink. It's an important mark. So I have that there for the future notice. And you'll notice here I'm writing cabinets are on this side. Anything that I write front on is something that will be facing out towards the customer. So there could be both sides could actually be a front. It just means it's a visible exposed edge, so we'll want to take care of that. There's going to be a wall that I'm writing out here, so don't worry about the back of that, those kind of things. But I'm marking the work surface out completely, so there's no question on what I need to do with this piece as I'm building it once I remove the template on. At this point, the template is pretty much done. I won't need it anymore. We'll double check it at the end just to make sure everything fits and is according to what we built out. But with the information I've got written there and the way we've already built this piece out, we shouldn't have to use it again. And once again, there's that center line of the sink. So when I'm lining up a sink, what I want to do is pay attention. I don't pay attention to where their existing sink is. What I want to do is their cabinet will be there, and I line up with the center of their cabinet door. So as they come together, I'm going to get the mark there, and I'm going to mark that on my template, and that's where we're going to draw our center line for our sink. So when we cut it out, our hole lines out specifically and perfectly with that cabinet and looks clean. Now I've done that, I'm going to flip this baby over. I like to flip it one direction. You'll see me bring the other piece over. Just keep everything lined up so I don't have any questions. I know exactly what it is. And then I'm going to build out the underneath portion of this. It's really important. It's going to keep our countertop solid. You're going to see me take this piece. I'm going to flip it over just like it had done a flip. Bring my sawhorses over, line that baby up. Super anal about this process because I want to build it perfect every time. And if you get this process down, if you follow my process exactly the way I'm teaching, you will have a flawless result. You won't ever have to worry about your countertops. So I'm doing here is I'm marking lines. These are where I'm going to put my pocket holes. So I'm going to screw pocket holes on the bottom side of this. And so I like to mark where they are. Then I'm going to put an X. I'm going to alternate sides. And where the X mark is, that's the side that I put the hole in that I'm going to screw into so that the two are pulling into each other as I'm doing the work. So I've got my pocket hole jig out here, and we're just going to drill away. So we're going to take our jig, we're going to clamp it down to the board so it's nice and tight. It's not going to wiggle on us. I've already set the depth on this bit here. That's what that little collar is that you're seeing there. So this is set up for 3/4 inch MDF. That's the size of the wood that we're using. So it's 3/4 inch thick MDF, and it's drawn just the right size hole so that when we screw the two pieces together, the depth is perfect. All right, just like we did the one side, we're gonna take the extra piece, we're gonna put our pocket holes in there as well. Some people like to do one, I like to do the two, just for a little extra strength. You know, you don't really get a whole lot of strength. You're not gonna get tensile strength out of it, you're just gonna keep your board lined up perfectly so that it doesn't create an uneven surface when you're working with it. We're gonna do some other things to reinforce that here that you'll see in a minute. All right, now that I've got my pocket holes all drilled out, I'm going to clamp it. Now the clamps hold it level with each other. And these screws are 1.25 inches, which is important when you're putting the two together. That's as much as I can to dig into the meat of the other board without pushing through to the other side and creating a problem for myself. So I've got 1.25 inch Craig screws there, and I'm just drilling them in so that we have a nice, tight and flush surface. I like to do both ends first and then work my ways in through the middles. And with that last screw, we've tightened up this countertop. Stay tuned to watch how we finish this out.